So we're joined from Walnut Creek, California, right there in the beautiful San Francisco Bay Area by my friend, retirement specialist, insurance specialist with World Financial Group, Tonza Christian. We thank you so much for getting up early out there on the West Coast for us this morning. This is my personal finance class here at Velma Jackson High School. I've got a room full here with me, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County schools, Madison Central, Germantown High School, Ridgeland High School, the Academic Option Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you once again for joining us now for the third straight year.
Thanks for having me.
Now, obviously, we want to talk about all the financial principles that you really are so passionate about. But just give us a little background because you came from very rural, humble beginnings, right here in Mississippi.
Yeah.
French Camp Academy, Meridian Community College, and that's taking you on a journey all the way to the West Coast.
It indeed has. I was born and raised in a very small town right up the natural straits called French Camp and went to French Camp Academy. Some may or may not ever heard of it. Most people are familiar with Startsville. Got my associate's degree from Meridian Community College. Amazing nursing program, by the way.
Yeah.
Got my bachelor's degree from Chamberlain and got my dual master's from Capella University. And from there, it allowed me open up doors and opportunities to relocate to California in 2008, and that's where I've been since then.
Yeah, because you were a nurse for several years and were a very successful nurse. And we have some young ladies here that are interested in that, or may have some other young students that are interested in nursing. And
Oh,
look,
nice.
I'm not knocking nursing, and we definitely need more nurses. And honestly, we need more male nurses. But I think
Very,
it's important for people to understand exactly what they are getting into because unfortunately, I think our social media age has turned nursing into let's just take pictures and scrubs and talk about how much money we're making when it doesn't really give you the day to day of bedside nursing.
no, it doesn't. Again, social media age has definitely glorified nursing, but there are many a days. When I started nursing, I started at Baptist Hospital. Then I've also worked at St. Dominic's Regency as well as UMC. And let me just tell you, my specialty that I specialize in was critical care. And I worked in open heart surgery. And you don't have time to post pictures. You don't have time to do these little amazing TikTok dances that you see on social media. Hopefully, the individuals that are doing that are on their breaks. But sometimes when you're sitting at the bedside, especially in critical care or any area, your main focus should be your patients. And there are times that you have to make split-second decisions, life or death, because again, these families and individuals are relying on you to get their family and loved ones home safely. So nursing is definitely a job, a passion of the heart, but it is a very serious career, but a very rewarding career. Go into it because you love helping and serving people. Yes, you're going to make a lot of money. I know they show that too. But again, right. But again, go into it because you love helping and serving people. But there's definitely a lot of, it's not as glorified as it seems, and it's a lot of hard work, and you have to really pay attention and focus in school. And school, by the way, is not easy. When you are in nursing school, it is 100% of your focus. It is a sacrifice while you're in school, and it's a sacrifice when you come out of school. So you're handling people's lives, so definitely handle with prayer and care.
Big time. And I know we're talking about money, but that just I cannot stress that enough. Now, we've spent a lot of time talking about how to get the career you want. We've done the resumes, the cover letters, we practiced the interviews. So when you start making the money is really where we want to start talking about things, even just the basic things,
Yeah.
because you made the pivot into the financial industry about a decade ago, if I'm correct.
Yeah, that's
And you've really seen a lot of mistakes that people make. And it's not that they're stupid and it's not that they don't care, but it's just the fact that they've never known. You growing up in a rural area, you were never taught these things. And there's so many things that kids can do right now to start preparing for whatever field they want to go into.
exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I kind of switch or not really switch in the interim. It opened my eyes because of course going from Mississippi to the West Coast, you're doubling your salary. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm doubling the amount of money I was making back home, but that doesn't mean I'm doubling the saving if I don't know how to properly manage it. So I saw so many nurses on the West Coast making sometimes more than nurse practitioners, to be honest, at the bedside.
Wow.
And when life happens, or when kids, got sick or they got sick, they ended up filing bankruptcy or fell on hard times. So I began looking at myself and say, okay, you are here, fortunate enough to have the opportunity to double your salary. But just because you're making more money and you don't know how to manage it, you might as well stay where you were. So it was really important to me when I came here to understand where to save my money, how to save my money, and just basic financial principles.
Yeah, and I know something that you specialize in is something that, and look, I'm far from an expert, and I will never be the level of expert that you are. But even I can tell young people things like this. You know, it just drives me crazy when I see the meme on TikTok and on Instagram about they need to lower the retirement age to 35. Well, retirement has nothing to do with age; it has everything to do with money. So even just saving a little bit as soon as you start working in your late teens or your early 20s, can it is amazing how much time that can save you in retirement later. Because look, these young people want the big paycheck. They say I'm balling out with this, but if you're not, so many companies, especially me being a teacher, luckily, state of Mississippi matches a certain amount every month into a retirement. And look, I'll even tell you if you don't at least put the minimum that somebody will match into a retirement account, you are absolutely outside of your mind because that
Absolutely.
is money that you never had to earn that goes into that account.
Absolutely. And the thing is you can see there, and there are some 20-year-olds, especially gotten into the stock market game and doing all these different things that are making really good money. But right now, the biggest thing that I want to stress to you guys is the biggest asset you have right now is time. That's the biggest asset you have. You may be working at McDonald's making minimum wage, but you're 19, you're 18, you're 20. You have time. If you start putting and setting aside 20 bucks every single month into account that's going to give you compounding interest, by the time you reach 35 and 40, you could have created an opportunity for you to retire. So the biggest asset is not making more money. It is saving what you can save right now and leveraging time on your side. That's the key factor.
Absolutely. And and the other thing that I know you're really passionate about, and this just drives me crazy because we have so many kids that are going to actually, and the bunch here with me, I see all of these students going to a 4-year university at some point.
Yes.
And obviously, if that's what they want to do, we support them 100%. But they need to understand about the financial traps that a college student can very easily fall into. I know when I was in college, as soon as we got there, we had table after table set up offering credit cards. Thus, offer you something free if you sign up today. And then, I was in Academy Sports the other night, and they're
Yeah.
offering to save me 15 bucks if I sign up for a store credit card right then. So how some of that stuff is even legal is a whole nother conversation. But just talk about the trap that I know you have seen so many people fall into because they just weren't educated on the fact that um, these credit cards are a huge pitfall of so many people.
Greg, I fell into it. I fell into that trap. When I got to college, again, the credit cards, they were there. But think about this. It's amazing that these credit card companies will offer college students and even the teenagers credit cards. But if you went into that same bank, let's say it's Bank of America, and you ask for a business loan, they'll tell you you don't qualify. Because at the end of the day, you have to understand who's winning in the game of interest. If you're paying interest or you're earning interest. So making sure, and it didn't dawn on me until the bill came in that I needed to pay this money back. And I said, well, didn't they know I didn't have a job? How am I gonna pay this money? So I left my first year of college with horrible credit. Horrible credit because I couldn't pay the bill. I was working, as a resident assistant, doing all this and that, but I was using my money to shop. I was using my money not to pay these credit cards back. And that was a huge mistake. So it was a huge learning curve for me. So definitely when you're going into your college years, do not get a credit card. One of the things you can do is if you're a responsible individual, you can ask your parents, and if they're gracious enough, they can put you on as an authorized user on their card. That's what I did for my kids. I put them on as an authorized user on my card in their freshman year to help them build up 4 years of credit. And then I was able to monitor it. Monitor and set a limit to how much they were spending. Because if you get a card, and most of these cards is like $1,000 or $1,500 limit, just don't make that mistake because eventually you're going to need to leverage credit in the future for home purchases, car purchases, and you don't want to get started on the wrong foot.
Absolutely. And it's crazy. Like you can't even go to an NBA basketball game without them trying to give you a credit card. Here we'll give you a T-shirt if you sign up for a credit card. And I was like, are people really that gullible?
Right now, you can't even rent a car. Well, I think they're a little bit lenient, but at one point, you couldn't even rent a car without a credit card. Now, I think if you do a debit, you have to have your returning flight, but everything is attached to the credit card.
Absolutely. And you know, I'm not saying don't have one, but not understanding how they work is such a detriment to so many people. And again, it's not that I don't think anybody's stupid, but it's just a matter of being of having the resources and the access to the information. Now, as somebody that deals with people's finances on a daily basis, and I know you're out there in California, but I think nationwide there is. We mentioned the social media age. Just because somebody sees something, they see the glamorous side of things. They see these people shopping and these quote unquote influencers doing this and that. What type of mistakes do you see young people make when they're trying to keep up with what they see online?
They think that they are behind. They think, and I say that because myself, having a 28, 25, 26, and 24-year-old, they think that they're behind. And they think that what they see is the truth. And I have to remind even my kids that you're only seeing the highlights of what individuals want you to see. That's not the real story. Seeing, oh, just go get an LLC and apply for a business loan. It takes a little bit more than that. Oh, go and do this and go and do it. They make it seem so easy. And you have to be very careful, even with some influencers that, oh, pay me to do this. If you honestly pick up a book, you can learn 90% of the things. I would say the first step is to go get a book, read, and then definitely have a mentor, but don't just opt to buy into these courses. A lot of things like that. Even for me in finances, I went when I was introduced to the concepts, I began reading books. And once I saw all aligned and they were pointing to the same thing, then I sought after a mentor that could actually teach me how to become licensed and how to teach these things. So get books. Google is fun. I love YouTube University as well. But also just remember what you see on in social media and as influencers, there's always a behind the scenes story. And there's a story that a story, a side of their story that you did not see. And it wasn't posted on social media because it wasn't glamorous.
Yeah. Now something else I wanted to talk about. And I don't know if we've talked about this before, but I think it's important. You know, I was quoted in a magazine as saying this, and I'll say it for the whole world to hear it on the internet. There is no secret that rural communities, especially rural black communities, were left without resources and access for decades.
Oh, sure.
So, you know, you don't see a whole lot of black women that get into the field that you're in, especially ones that came from the background that you have. So, if kids are kind of, you know, on the fence about what they want to do with their career, why is there such a need for more young women and more young black men and more, you know, Hispanic kids to get into this financial realm of a career?
Sure. If you are looking to get in any type of career, it doesn't matter if it's healthcare, it doesn't matter if it's engineering, it could be anything. It could be welding. At some point in your life, you're going to have to deal with money. And it is very important that you understand how to deal with money, especially in the Black and rural community, is because our family, our parents, I was raised in a single parent household. My mom, and we have to understand that number one, in the Black community, especially, we are teaching our kids the exact same thing that's been passed down to us from generation to generation. That is this: go to school, get a good education, get a job with benefits, stay there, and they'll take care of you. Well, that's not necessarily true. That was probably true in the last era of my father, but not
Right.
necessarily true now. Why is that? Our grandparents and our parents preached that because back then these companies offered pension plans. Again, pensions is very different than your typical retirement accounts. Pensions is a company owned plan that they will pay you a lifetime income for the rest of your life. Pension plans are also not pension plans are something that you as an employee are not contributing to. The company contributes to these plans, therefore they get to write it off while you're working for them. Your 401k and your retirement account and 403b, that's your money you're contributing to. So many companies right now are not offering pension plans, therefore leaving us, especially in the Black rural community, with only our 401ks and 403bs. And maybe Social Security at that. If you just go back and ask your parents, ask your grandparents, Mom, do you have a pension or do you have a Social Security? What incomes are you living on? What income do you have coming in for the rest of your life? Also, too, in the Black and rural community, our only option was military. So a lot of our parents and grandparents have checks coming in from the military.
Yeah.
Well, that's not necessarily a bad option right now, but that's the only option that our parents and grandparents had. So now you look at that and you have less individuals going into the military because of everything that's going on right now. So within the Black community, it is very important as parents that we begin educating and teaching about financial literacy and financial options. Therefore, we can choose better plans. And we have to break the scenario of the company's going to take care of you for the rest of your life. That was okay back then because the life expectancy for men, let's say, was in their 60s and females was in their 70s. You have people right now, due to medical interventions, living into the 90s and 100.
Yeah.
Companies cannot afford it. So, again, coming from a rural area, growing up on a dirt road in French Camp, Mississippi, what I saw was all I saw. But again, what I realized and what I began watching on TV and seeing shows like The Cosby and all of this, it made me open my eyes to what life could really look like. And
Yeah.
I longed for that. And it's sad that those shows are really not, you don't see many of those shows that are centered around family and education anymore.
Man, tell me about it. These kids don't know what they were missing with Cosby. I mean, I mean, we can talk all day long about Bill Cosby's crimes, but that show was just revolutionary for TV. Now, something else I think is really important is you mentioned, we haven't really talked about having a checking account.
Oh,
Simple things like that. When you start getting a paycheck, they're gonna pretty much every company is direct deposit now. And I know there's been a lot of mistrust of banks in rural communities, but when you go in to buy a car, when you go in to get apply for a loan, they're going to want to see bank statements. A Cash App card is not having a bank account. And
not.
look, I use Cash App. I mean, it definitely has its place. It's convenient when I need to pay friends, but it is not where you need to have your primary source of money in the bank because it's not a bank. So obviously, all the kids are used to using it, and it definitely has its place. But just talk about the huge difference that they may not realize on why they need a banking account as opposed to just having a Cash App card.
So when it comes to bank account, any type of financial transaction you're going to do in the future, whether it's by home, by car, just like Greg said, you're going to have to show bank statements. And that is because the banks needs to see where the money is coming from. You can't just walk into a bank and pay cash for a house. They need to know, where did you get this money? And the way that they track it is through your checking account. When I first got my very first job at Tennis Shoe Heaven in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, I opened a bank account at Merchants and Farmers. I don't even know Merchants and Farmers. I think it's Renaissance now. I don't even know.
Yeah,
But
it was bought by Renaissance. Yeah.
at Renaissance, yeah, because I remember I think they switched over. So I opened my very first account at Merchants and Farmers Bank at the age of 16. And I had that account, and that account allowed me to purchase my first two homes because of that account and the long
Wow.
standing that I had. So when I was able to show my bank statements, I was able to go to my Merchants and Farmers, okay, bank statements and tax statements. Let's not forget that too, because that's also very important. When you are a teenager, when you're still living in your parents' home, your parents can actually technically still claim you on your taxes. But when you get out and you get a career and you're done with college, you're going to have to start filing taxes. And you're going to need to know how that works. And you may be surprised too when you get your first paycheck. Greg, I know I was surprised. I was like, why are they taking out so much money for federal? Why are they taking out so
Oh
much money
yeah.
for state? Why are
Yeah.
they taking out so much
And
money
we're gonna
for
get to that in
Medicare?
this class. They just don't know it yet about reading the
Oh,
pay
okay.
stub. Yeah.
Yes, your pay stub. And I was like, what is this? Oh, that's for you later on. You're like, what? I need this money now. So it is very important that when you start working, that you establish a checkings account. And you can get a savings account too. It doesn't hurt. And just automatic, you want to automate as much as possible. Because when you get that check and it goes into that bank account, you're like, ooh, I am about to spend this. You want to set yourself up. What I like to say is a 50, 50, 30, 20 rule. 50% of your paycheck should go to savings, especially right now, because you don't have any responsibilities. 50% of your paycheck should go to savings. Wouldn't it be nice if you needed a car and you could go to your mom and dad and say, hey, well, I have $3,000 saved on my car? They're more apt to help you out because they know that you're responsible, as opposed to, I want this Mustang for $35,000 and you need to foot the bill. No, I need you to be responsible. At least pay me insurance. So 50% of your money should go to savings. 30%, 50% should go to saving. 30% should go to your day to day, and then day to day, and then 20%, well, look, I can't forget tithes. 50% savings, 30% should go to like day to day, and then 20% to like your wants. It's a good way to kind of break down your paycheck. But getting a checkings account, like I said, I was able to get my first two homes where I purchased in Louisville and Brandon with the account that I opened because it showed a long-standing history.
Yeah. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before I get to their question, because I've got some really good ones, is, one thing that, in the last few years, and especially in the Black community, you've seen the hashtag no more GoFundMe funerals.
Mm,
And I think understanding life insurance and its importance is so necessary because it is bad enough when you have a tragedy in a community,
yeah,
where someone unexpectedly loses their life.
yeah,
But when you plan ahead, it takes off the burden of the community having to come together to help pay for that. And obviously, and look, a lot of these communities are going to help, but at the end of the day, do you really want to depend on the generosity of other people in order to fulfill your family's wishes? So
yeah.
I think that's something that it hasn't been talked about enough until recently, and it's something that's kind of misunderstood. So why is it so important to have the life insurance, especially if these young people want to have a family in the future?
Yeah, it is so important. Again, growing up in a rural area in Mississippi, all I knew about life insurance was my grandmother's insurance man would come the first of every month. And of course, that's also when she would get her check. So she would make sure she leave out a little brown envelope right outside the door for the insurance man to come pick up her life insurance. My grandmother and most individuals in rural Mississippi, we believe in life insurance. But the problem with that is, and if you look at statistics shows that Black individuals have the most. We have insurance over any race, but here's a problem: we never have enough. We never have enough. We have burial policies of five and $10,000 and $15,000. Well, if you are thinking and wanting to have a family in the future, you have to understand something that's called insurable need. That means that if you have a house that is you bought for 250,000 and you have two children. So let's say a $250,000 house, you have two children that are probably going to need about $100,000 for college. Then you also, let's say, have some debt, which is like $50,000. Well, if you add all of that up, that's $400,000 right there. But most individuals have about $15,000, just enough for burial. And we typically don't even opt into, because even on your job gives you benefits of opting into life insurance. But read the fine print, because some of those benefits on your job, you have to actually pass away at the job. So we have insurances, but we don't have enough. So when someone passes away in the Black community, we lose our homes because we barely have enough to cover the funeral, 15,000, 20,000. Then, which we're left back with a mortgage, we're left back with the kids not being able to go to college because we're not properly insured. As you have more children, as you buy more property, as you get more homes, that is the time for you to revisit your insurance and make sure your insurance is covering the needs of your loved one. Insurance is not for you, it's for those that you love. And it is a last love letter that you'll leave to your family. That's what I like to say.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a great way to put it. Well, I do have some questions here, and these are all really good. This is Azaya Ray. She's in 11th grade, member of our band. She's also a member of our JROTC, and she asked, "How do you stay updated on industry trends?"
Oh gosh, reading. I read a lot. Industry trends, things that are very important to me, of course, is finances. Also, to what's going on in the world as far as like market interest and all of those things. So on my phone, I have some apps too, like Yahoo Finance, different things like that. But most importantly, I read a lot to stay up on industry trends and understanding that everything is going to change. Now, in the world of AI, things is changing even faster. So it's going to be very important that you stay up to date on as current as possible and how those things are intertwining with whatever your specialty is.
Love it. I like this one. This is Jasmine McBride. She's in 10th grade, and she has two questions. She said, one, what inspired you to become a nurse?
What inspired me to become a nurse? I started taking care of my grandmother when I was 10 years old. My
Ooh.
grandmother was diagnosed with bladder cancer, and
Mm.
I would go to her appointments, all of her appointments with her. And the doctor would come in for about 2 seconds, and then the nurse would stay with her during her entire treatment. And my grandmother was amazing cook, amazing baker. And she would look, even though she was going through so much, she would look forward to seeing her nurses because she knew all of them by name. So I saw the impact, and even though she
Yeah.
was going through a hard time, I saw the impact and how it lifted her spirits by having someone at her side to hold her hand that cared about her. So I said, you know what? I want to do that. I want to be that person to, no matter what diagnosis an individual is going through or who their loved one is, if I can do something to impact and make this process a little bit more easier, I want to do that. So that is what
That's
inspired me.
awesome. That's awesome. Now she has this. She wants to go to Georgia State University in Atlanta, and she
Okay.
says, "Ask, I want to be a therapist as my first choice, but do you think nursing would be a good backup plan? And if not, is there an occupation that would tie into both?"
Oh gosh, I'm gonna always say nursing. I'm gonna always say nursing. I'm not sure if you want to be a speech therapist, physical therapist, respiratory therapist, whatever, but a respiratory therapist, I'm gonna always say nursing. And here's why. Being a therapist limits you to only being a therapist. That's it. Being a nurse, if you get to choose the population you want to work with.
Yeah.
If you get tired of dealing with babies, you can deal with geriatrics. You get tired of the 9 to 5 knock shift, day shift, you can go be a school nurse. If you get tired of doing bedside, you can go to administration. You get tired of administration, you could go to become a CRNA. You can be a nurse practitioner where you can run your own clinic. There's so many opportunities that you can do in nursing that you should never be or find a nurse that is miserable in their career because you can change. So
Yeah.
nursing provides more opportunities on a broader spectrum. And the opportunities, honestly, is endless.
I got two more. This is Ikeria Chambers. She's in 10th grade. And she asked, what was your biggest motivation to pivot into the financial industry?
My kids. My kids coming home and asking me, do I have their college plan? My kids coming home and asking me
Wow.
when are they, what is a good age to retire? My kids coming home and saying, Mom, how much money do I have in my college fund? And I'm like, I don't even have one. I don't even know what that means. So I had to step back and realize that I could not educate my kids past what I didn't know, and I did not know a lot as it relate to
Wow.
finance. So I began educating myself on finances just so that I can be able to educate them. I want them, of course, to go to career, go to school, get a degree, but I also knew my degree was limiting me as well as far as earning and time. So I switched to the financial industry simply to educate myself so I can educate my kids. And then I saw the need in my community to do more.
That's awesome. Well, I got one more. This is Kalia Bullock. She's in 10th grade.
Mhm.
And she asked, you said that nursing was rewarding, but how rewarding and inspiring is the financial industry?
Oh God, it's the same. So I love both. And my mom is like, oh my goodness, you went to school all these years for nursing and now you're not nursing anymore. Actually, I do. Because especially when it comes to life insurance, everybody wants life insurance, but everybody doesn't get life insurance. You have to apply. And in applying for an application, it's based on your health. So sometimes I have found in submitting applications, I get to talk to the patients about the medications. They don't even know what they mean. Sometimes the patients are denied based off of something in the medical record. I'm able to read it. I'm able to tell them to go back to the doctor, request for this, request for that. With Tonza, I got this calcium score. What does this mean? I'm still educating individuals, even in the realm of nursing, because life insurance is attached to health. So I get to do both. Also, too, in nursing, I was very limited to just that patient, whereas in financial services, the plans that I'm creating is going to take care of generations and legacy to come. So I'm still educating and talking about finances and educating my clients in the financial realm. And it is, if not more rewarding, is just as rewarding as nursing. And to be honest, I never thought that I would find anything that made me feel so complete like nursing, but finances, because I still get to do both.
That's incredible. Well, we're almost out of time, and as always, we thank you so much for making some time for us. But just a few things before we go. First of all, Tonza Christian on Instagram, really inspiring stuff. We love seeing, you got some things in your family, but you're putting some financial tips on there. And I'm always saying, find positive people on social media to follow. I like following the celebrities too, but if I can find people that can help me understand some basic things, that's good. And which leads me to my last point. these kids may say, look, I'm just 15, 16 years old. This stuff is never going to matter. This stuff is boring. But, and we're not expecting everybody to be financial experts. But how vital is it, no matter what career they choose, to at least be familiar with the basic financial principles of being successful in this country or being left behind so many people?
You guys are very fortunate that you have an opportunity to get this education in class. I wish that I had someone to come when I was in school educating about basic financial principles. It is very vital that you educate yourself on the basics. You can go and hire a financial advisor. You can go and hire a tax profession. You can go and hire an accountant. But you have to understand the difference between being talked to and being involved in the conversation. Having the basic financial education, basic financial concepts is going to give you the words to be able to be an advocate for yourself. And nobody knows what your financial situation look like, who all is depending upon you at home but you. So it is very important that you have the basic financial education so that you can advocate for yourself and your family.
Love it. Well, again, we thank you for getting up early in the morning out there for us on the West Coast. It's always such a pleasure. I am blown away by everything you do and continue to do. Please give Jazreel my best.
Well,
We thank you so much joining us all the way from Walnut Creek, California. Tonza Christian, thank you so much for joining us today.
thank you. Have a great day. Good luck,
I'll
everyone.
talk to you soon, my friend.